Hi, my name is Kimberly Worsham, and I am the founder and principal of a company called Flush. And Flush does two main services. The first one we do is we create fun, educational events for people like you who maybe don't know so much about toilets, and we make toilets fun so you can talk about it with your friends while learning about it. The second thing we do is we provide business services to organizations working in and around sanitation across the globe. So that's what we do. That's what I do. I talk a lot all day. So here I'm going to talk to you a little bit about poo for the year of poo. So how did I get into the world of poo? It's a good question. People ask me this all the time. So I grew up with a lot of gastrointestinal disorders. I'm a celiac. I have irritable bowel syndrome. So I was always searching for a toilet growing up. So it was almost a family joke when I was 7, 8, 9 years old, because every time my family would go to a restaurant, my first stop before sitting down at the table was to go check out the toilets to make sure they were up to my personal code. What that personal code means, I actually can't tell you. I don't know. It was just a feeling, a vibe, I guess. But that's really what I was doing, is just making sure I knew I was going to show up at the toilet at some point when I was at the restaurant. So I wanted to make sure I was comfortable there. And if not, we had to go to a different restaurant. So that was me growing up as a kid. Fast forwarding to adulthood, when I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life, around 2009, I started working with other people in other countries and noticing how many people didn't have good access to toilets. That also meant how many times I couldn't get access to toilets as well, needing a toilet at all times. And I realized how important it was. It's amazing how many people out there just don't have good access to toilets even when they need it. We know that 1 in 2 people don't have reliable access to safe toilets. It's kind of mind-blowing if you think about it. So I started working on this a little bit, tinkering with it on my side gigs and all of that. And I decided to really get committed to it in 2015 by going to get a second master's, because I'm a masochist, a second master's working on water and sanitation. Since then, I started developing classes and doing advisory services in different ways for different clients, and started to say, well, hey, let's make this into a company, because I think this is pretty important and pretty cool, and I think what we're doing works. So one of the things I like to tell people about my words of wisdom about the worlds of toilets for flushers like you is that toilet access issues have been kind of consistent throughout history. So I think one of our big classes we make is the history of toilets. And I think that there are some pretty important themes from the history of toilets that you can take and make into lessons for modern days. And they're almost always about toilet access issues. So the first one is that toilet access issues are everywhere. It's not just a thing over there. It's in your backyard, no matter where you live, in New York City, in San Francisco. If you live in a small town in the middle of the US, everywhere has toilet access issues. It's not just an over there issue. The second thing is toilet access issues are timeless. We know that there were issues with access to toilets for at least the last 5,000 years, because it was almost always accessible to people who are wealthy and fancy pants. Everyone else kind of had to figure it out on their own, going outside, using a lake or something like that as a way to use the toilet. It's pretty timeless. And that comes to our third lesson, which is that toilet access issues always reflect disparities and inequities in society. So right now we have everybody having access to toilets who are pretty wealthy and well off, and everyone else is kind of, not sure if they have good access. It's the same thing that we've saw in Mycenaean Greece. It's the same thing we saw in Rome. All of these kind of ancient cultures had the same issues. The last one, the fourth lesson to take home, is that we don't always do a good job addressing toilet access issues. So we might have access to toilets in some places that are better than none, but we don't always do a perfect job, which is why we still have conversations about, why do we use clean water to flush the toilet? Or why do sewers sometimes output into waterways? Or why do people in India sometimes open defecate even if they have a toilet? We don't always do a good job answering these. And if poo were to talk, and I'm not saying that it should, and I'm not saying that it will, but if it were, one of the things that I think it would say is that it's really a tool that can be used for good or evil. Good being using it for reusable purposes like biogas or compost fertilizer, or evil, such as if we leave it alone and don't really manage it well, like a tool should be managed, then it spreads diseases like cholera and typhoid and, makes our waterways disgusting and everything else really a big bummer. So that's me. I'm Kim, and I poo too.